I want to thank you for checking out another podcast of We Ain't Scared Talk, where we ain't scared. My name is A1, and as usual, I want to thank you for taking the time to just listen. You know, sometimes we go through life and we're busy, and there's a lot of places and a lot of things that we could be doing, and I do appreciate you just clicking that link and just taking the time to hear some thoughts, some information that you might not otherwise get to hear. So today, let me just say this too as well. Thank you for those, or to those, that have picked up their We Ain't Scared Talk mugs. As always, I'm very proud of these mugs. They are strong, they are black, and they can withstand the hottest of pressure and temperature. So your hot drinks are going to be grateful. They have a home. It's stable. Just don't drop them. They're black, but if you drop them, they will crack. It's probably about the only time black will crack. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. And I always say that, but let me just say this too. We are close to 2020. Okay, we're about 30 days away. So whatever you're thinking of doing and planning on doing, please stick to it. These New Year's resolutions, they come, they go, literally the same day that people make them. But do something for yourself this year, this next year, 2020. Make a promise to yourself that you're going to get out and you're going to positively affect your own life. You can give back and you can help those that you feel needed, but you are the number one person on that list that needs your time and your attention. So please, you owe it to yourself. Do something for yourself. If you don't do it, it won't get done. Be deliberate, okay? Be deliberate in what you do. Write it down, make it real, and follow through. All right, so enough of that. And so today's podcast, it's going to be a little different than most of the things that I discuss, but we talk about everything and anything on this podcast. So this is really about Jeffrey Edward Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein, or Epstein, however. No, it's Steen. It's Steen. So let me tell you the name of the topic before I jump in, because the notes are pretty, it's pretty deep here. So it is called, Why Has American Media Shut Down the Epstein documentary? Why has American media shut down the Epstein documentary? So as usual, I have a lot of notes, and I'm going to just try to get through this as quickly as I can, but at the same time, take my time. Take my time. So here's some backstory that a lot of people may not know. And why would you? It's Jeffrey Epstein. But Jeffrey Edward Epstein was born January 20th, 1953. And as far as some of the details look, he was murdered on August 10th of 2019. Just close some of these windows here. All right, great. So he was an American financier and a convicted sex offender. Now, as I continue with this, there's something insidious going on around or with this man in his life. He began his professional life as a teacher, but then later he switched to the banking and finance sector in various roles. He worked at Bear Stearns before forming, and for those, Bear Stearns is a commodities trading stock type of a firm. And but before forming his own firm, he developed an elite social circle and procured women and many underage girls who were then sexually abused by Epstein and some of the people that we're going to talk about. Now, in 2005, police in Palm Beach, Florida, began investigating Epstein after a parent complained that he had sexually abused her 14-year-old daughter. He pleaded guilty. Okay, he pleaded guilty, and was convicted in 2008 by a Florida state court for procuring an underage girl for prostitution. I love the beautiful, fancy words, procuring. He was a pimp. And he solicited and he provided underage girls for prostitution. Now, he served a nearly 13-month, well, he was in custody for 13 months. But with the extensive work release, or with the work release program, that ended. He was also convicted of only those 2 crimes as part of a plea deal. So he pleaded out. Federal officials had in fact identified, get this, 36 girls, some as young as 14, whom Epstein had sexually abused. Now, I'm going to put a little asterisk here. We talk about the drama surrounding R. Kelly. We talk about the things that he has allegedly done and committed. But this man, Jeffrey Epstein, he pleaded out on this. Okay, 36 girls. And the media, as much as they were all up in R. Kelly's anus, they wouldn't even touch a fingernail of accusing or of tearing down Jeffrey Epstein. But let me continue. Epstein was arrested again on July 6 of 2019 on federal charges for the sex trafficking of minors in Florida. So this started back in 2005 all the way through 2019. So we're talking 14 years, okay, on federal charges for sex trafficking of minors in Florida and New York. He died in his jail cell. Well, we're going to get to that in a moment. On August 10th of 2019. Now, the medical examiner ruled that the death was a suicide, although Epstein's lawyers have disputed the ruling because his death eliminates the possibility of pursuing criminal charges. A judge dismissed all the criminal charges against Epstein on August 29th, 2019. So we're going to dig in, okay? Let's talk about the pathologist. This is the person responsible for examining Jeffrey Epstein's body after his death. So this particular pathologist disputes the findings that Epstein hung himself. And I'm going to read this really verbatim as it was written. The pathologist determined strangulation. So here's the theory. On Wednesday, I don't have a date here, but on Wednesday, Dr. Baden, B-A-D-E-N, said Mr. Epstein had 3 fractures in the hyoid bone, the thyroid cartilage. He said that those injuries were very unusual for suicide and more indicative of strangulation, homicidal strangulation. So in other words, somebody got into Epstein's jail cell and choked him to death. Literally, strangled him to death. Now, the autopsy also showed Mr. Epstein had several bones broken in his neck. Now, the city medical examiner said Mr. Epstein's death was hanging. Okay, this was the city. Said he hung himself. And then again, they concluded that the manner was suicide. Now, before that determination was made public, an article in the Washington Post, very well respected between the New York Times and the Washington Post. Those are extremely reputable news agencies or media outlets. But it noted that Mr. Epstein's injuries included a broken hyoid bone, an injury that could have been a sign of strangulation, as well as suicide by hanging. Now, the article helped fuel conspiracy theories that speculated Mr. Epstein may have been murdered. May have been murdered. Right. Okay. But more information coming as to why I am concluding he was. And this was to prevent him from ensnaring his coterie, interesting word, coterie of rich and powerful friends into his legal woes. So here's number one. Okay, we're going to talk about some of the people that he was associated with. Some of these are going to be extremely familiar to a lot of you. Of course, Donald Trump. And they say his girlfriend or future wife, Melania, at the time, Knauss, Knauss, Jeffrey Epstein, and a British socialite, how do you say this? Ghislaine, Ghislaine, Ghislaine Maxwell. They were seen, or they posed together at a Mar-a-Lago club. Interesting, Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach, Florida. That's where 45 has recently relocated, and they say this is the strategy because of his wanting to make sure that Florida is a red state for his next campaign. So anyway, this was in 2000. Okay? Former President Bill Clinton traveled with Epstein in 2002 and 2003. Now look, we all know about the Monica Lewinsky cigar, blue dress, semen stain, blowjob in the Oval Office. So it's not a stretch for me to believe that Bill Clinton did not associate himself with a man that had the same type of proclivities to young girls. Now, what a lot of people don't understand, just to, again, sidebar here, Monica Lewinsky, her family was very well connected, and she got that particular job or role because her parents called in some favors for her, and Bill Clinton took advantage of that. So let's keep moving. Number three, actor Kevin Spacey. And this was interesting to me. Chris Tucker was mentioned on this list, that he also took trips with Epstein. Now, look, this does not mean that every single person that I mentioned knew about Epstein's nefarious past or present at that time, but it does raise questions. Okay, then again, to continue, Maxwell, his name Ghislaine Maxwell, who I mentioned earlier, 57 years old, is a British socialite and the daughter of a media tycoon, Robert Maxwell. Now, this is interesting because this is a female. Now, it doesn't mean that, again, they were involved, but women, it is a known fact that women participate. They are pimps. They pimp young girls out. And I'm trying to think of the white female. This probably was in the early 2000s that got caught pimping and in L.A. But at any rate, she was very high profile. So anyway, she started dating Epstein shortly after moving to New York in 1991. Previously, or as reported in the Business Insider. Now, after they broke up, court documents allege that Maxwell, this is where I'm going, started recruiting underage girls for him to have sex with. So, as I said, women are involved, as this just stated. All right, so let's keep going. Prince Andrew. Now, this is a real interesting one because Buckingham Palace is freaking out right now. As a matter of fact, as of this podcast, Prince Andrew made a public request to the Queen to back away from his daily responsibility as a result of all of this negative publicity. So The Guardian, which is an extremely reputable news outlet, reported in 2015, Maxwell introduced Epstein and the Duke of York in the 1990s. So this goes back to the early 1990s. So if you do the math, you're talking well over 20 years old. And they became close friends. The Duke, Prince Andrew, is the son of Queen Elizabeth. Okay. He has also been criticized for frequently taking flights on taxpayer dollars while serving as the country's special representative for international trade. Yeah, he was trading all right. He was trading in skin and human flesh and young girls. So this earned him the nickname Air Miles Andy, according to, again, the Washington Post. Now, court documents reviewed by The Guardian allege that Epstein instructed Virginia Roberts Giuffre, hopefully I'm saying that right, Giuffre, a 15-year-old employee at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort. Are you sensing a pattern here? To have sex with Prince Andrew on 3 separate occasions. Again, this is from The Guardian. Moving on. Former Secretary of Labor Alexander Acosta worked with Epstein's legal team to arrange a plea deal after Epstein was charged with solicitation of prostitution and procurement of minors for prostitution in Florida in 2007. This is a fact. An investigation by the Miami Herald revealed that Acosta, then a U.S. attorney, had enough evidence against Epstein to request a life sentence. Let me read that again, because this is huge. This is one of those bombshells. I wish I had that sound effect here. Just an exploding bomb. An investigation by the Miami Herald revealed that Acosta, then a U.S. attorney, had enough evidence against Epstein to request a life sentence. Instead, he reportedly met with one of Epstein's lawyers who happened to be a former colleague of Acosta. So this is that, good old boy network, quid pro quo. I know you, you know me. We went to school together. We're colleagues. Come on, man, cut us a break. So in a resulting plea deal, Epstein served 13 months in a private wing of a county prison, So he got special treatment, which he was allowed to leave 6 days a week to work in his office. So you're in jail, but you get to leave. That's not jail. That is a work release, a prison work release program, so you can continue what you were doing. So the Business Insider reported that Acosta said he was pleased that New York prosecutors are moving forward with a case based on new evidence on Twitter. So now he's talking out of both sides. So let's continue with more information. Film publicist Peggy Siegel planned a star-studded dinner party for Epstein and Prince Andrew at Epstein's New York mansion in 2010. So now we have more information about the constant relationship between Epstein that procures young teenage girls and Prince Andrew constantly being in the same place at the same time. So what do you think is going on? It's a legitimate question. What do you think is going on? Epstein also told the Times that he spoke often with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the same crown prince that was tied to the Khashoggi murder. Okay, this is Epstein running in those circles. Okay, so according to the New York Times, Epstein claimed to have advised Tesla CEO Elon Musk. Now, again, I'm not suggesting that all these people knew that Epstein was procuring young girls for the elite. All I'm saying is the elite that hung around Jeffrey Epstein may have been aware. That's all I'm saying. Honestly, I don't see how you couldn't know, but we got to move forward. So Tesla CEO Elon Musk was photographed at a 2014 Oscars after party next to Ghislaine Maxwell, the British socialite, accused of being Epstein's madam, which I'm certain that was the case, in media reports and legal documents. So Epstein couldn't do everything and all of it on his own. So he had a female befriend these young teenage girls to serve them up to these rich, white, elite males, white males. Okay, MIT Media Lab director Joy Ito quietly worked with Epstein to secure anonymous donations. Okay, now we're into the educational sector where a lot of young girls are. Okay, school, college age. So Ito worked with other directors and staff at the MIT Media Lab to quietly receive large anonymous donations from Epstein after he was convicted of soliciting underage girls for prostitution. Now, this is coming from the New Yorker. Okay, it's an expose. This was published on September 6th. The article contains emails sent between Ito and Jeffrey Epstein, who was convicted or was a convicted sex offender and faced charges of sex trafficking of minors before committing suicide, allegedly, in jail in August of 2019. Now, let me just put another sidebar here. You have a convicted sex offender who is giving large amounts of money and donations to MIT Media Lab. Now, if you're taking and receiving money, you know who you're getting the money from. When somebody is around you and you're getting large donations, you know about these people. You know about their background. You know how they roll. And birds of a feather is a true statement. And it amazes me how people can accuse black people of a certain type of behavior, lump us into a particular group. You're lazy, you don't want to work, you don't do this, you're prone to that. But when you have a convicted sex offender to the elite, well, he's a sex offender running in the circles of these elite people, they know what this man does and they want what he has. So now back on track. The emails show Epstein also worked as an in-between for other wealthy donors, including, get this, Bill Gates. And another person, his name is Leon Black. Now, Bill Gates is interesting to me because I think most people would not think, certain types. Bill Gates, he makes computers, he's changing the world. But see, what you have to understand with wealthy white men, they are used to having whatever they want, whenever they want. And wealthy white men since the beginning of time have had a extreme attraction to young girls. They're easy to manipulate. You ply them with alcohol, drugs. You can afford the upscale, secluded areas of the world. You fly in, you everything is hush hush quiet, and then you leave. So to continue, Epstein had a role in determining what his donations would be used for at MIT, contradicting previous statements from Ito and the university. So he was basically buying his influence. He was paying for influence at MIT. Epstein worked as a go-between for the MIT Media Lab and Bill Gates to arrange donations. So even Bill Gates' hands aren't completely clean, because if you are that high powered in terms of your status, you're not going to enter a room until you know who's in the room before you get in the room, especially with that kind of money, because of perception. So since this started in 2005, I find it very difficult to believe that all of these wealthy elite white men did not know, one, Jeffrey Epstein was going to be there, but two, they didn't know about his history as a sex offender, a convicted sex offender. Okay, to continue. Emails obtained and published by The New Yorker show former MIT Media Lab director Joy Ito wrote that Bill Gates, was directed by Epstein to donate $2 million to the research lab in October of 2014. Now, it's speculation. I don't know what Epstein had in mind. We'll never know because obviously he's dead. But the fact that Bill Gates was in communication with him, it raises an eyebrow. So my question at this point is, what do most people think pedophiles and child traffickers look like? What do they think they look like? Because when you say these names, I mean, we know Trump, we know what he's about, but the Bill Gates, okay, the Elon Musks, Prince Andrew, and the female that was the madam for Epstein. What do people think pedophiles and child traffickers look like? Do they think that they wear raincoats, fake mustaches, the fedora hat, and they just walk around and they look like, wait a second, something ain't quite right with that person. This is what they look like. And this is also historically. You go back to slavery, and this is important. During slavery, there was no question pedophiles existed because pedophilia has been around since the beginning of time. But there were many instances daily. Those little black boys and girls, those slave boys and girls, mind you, they did not wear pants. Okay, a lot of them didn't have just an old shirt. Okay, where they had no shoes, and that was the environment. So if a slave master or even the mistress, as these kids were growing up and they were approaching puberty, they could get an eyeful of what these kids look like at damn near every stage of their life. And so it is also, we all know, white slavers raped not just the women and the men, but they did so to the children. So what I don't understand is why we find it so shocking and hard to believe. Oh, it just why? Because they dress nice? Because they own a famous company? Because they speak well? No, these are what typical wealthy white pedophiles look like. So forget because you love your phone or you love your computer or you love that test. Look, and I'm not saying conclusively that all these men were involved, but what I am saying is this: birds of a feather. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And if if A1 was in a room and 45 was in that room, and it was on video, and it was photographed, are you trying to tell me that you would not think that I am a Trump supporter? Of course you would think I'm a Trump supporter. I got on the MAGA hat. I'm in a room with this person, and it's happened on several occasions, and then I come out and say, oh, I had no idea that was who that was for. I didn't know what they were doing. Really? But that's how stupid they see and view the public. Look, 1 + 1 is 2, period. Of course he was providing young girls for these men because that's what gets them off. And they do it because they can. And they get away with it because they can and because they have money. So, as you think about this information and as you kick it around, I just wanted to make sure I got something out to you, to listen to and to think about. Jeffrey Epstein is gone. I do believe personally he was murdered. We'll see if that ever comes out. But understand, this is happening daily. And I don't know what can be done to stop it because money and power is always going to have a friend within the establishment. So, I know it was a lot, but kick it around. Think about it. I know you have your own thoughts, and let's keep the conversation going. So I want to thank you for checking out another podcast of We Ain't Scared Talk. My name is A1, and you got some good food for thought. Listen again. Tell a friend. We ain't scared.